The story begins in 1998. We meet a mafia soldier named Toni Cipriani. Toni returns to Liberty City after spending 4 years in hiding. We learn that Toni kills a made man under orders from Salvatore Leone. But the murder creates too much police aggro, so Salvatore sends Toni away. Toni stays silent for 4 years. He sacrifices his reputation, and he expects the family to reward that loyalty when he returns. But the welcome cutscene immediately claps that expectation. Salvatore introduces Toni to a man named Vincenzo Cilli. While Toni hides, Vincenzo completes missions for the Leones.
You need some money? Ask him.
He built connections, he gains Salvatore's trust, and he takes the position Toni left behind. So Toni returns as a respected veteran, but the game hard locks him back at level 1. Vincenzo drives Toni to a tiny apartment in Portland. He gives him new clothes. Then he starts assigning low-level jobs, making it clear that Toni now works beneath him. Toni hates this, but his old reputation has expired, so he begins grinding it back. Vincenzo first sends Toni to collect a dealer who refuses to work. We learn that the Sindaco family is moving into Leone territory. Their dealers sell drugs on Salvatore's streets. They threaten Leone businesses, and they assume the family is too weak to stop them. So Toni finds the Sindaco dealers, he kills them, and he forces the Leone dealer back to work. The mission is small, but Portland now knows Toni Cipriani is active again. Toni's next job brings him to a man named Joseph Daniel O'Toole. Everyone calls him JD. JD manages Polly's review bar for the Sindaco family. He earns their money, he hears their plans, and he keeps one of their most valuable businesses running. But JD is not Italian, so the Sindacos treat him like a useful NPC instead of a real family member. JD realizes he is permanently locked out of promotion, so he decides to defect to the Leones. But a Sindaco soldier is watching him. Toni removes the soldier, thinking this proves JD is serious. But JD secretly records the murder. He enjoys filming violence, and he plans to use the footage as proof that he helps the Leones. It is a strange passive ability, but the recording proves his loyalty, so JD becomes an informant inside the Sindaco organization. Before Toni can use that information, several Leone soldiers fail a robbery. The police surround them. An arrest risks exposing more Leone operations, so Vincenzo sends Toni to fix the situation. Toni smashes through the police blockade. He collects the trapped soldiers and he escapes before the cops can close the route. The soldiers survive, but Toni's success creates a new problem. Vincenzo spends years climbing the Leone hierarchy. Now Toni returns and instantly begins collecting reputation points again. So Vincenzo stops treating Toni like an employee. He starts treating him like a rival. Vincenzo decides to remove him before Salvatore remembers how useful he is. So he sends Toni to collect a sports car. But the vehicle is packed with drugs. The police already know where it is. The moment Toni enters, police cars flood the area. Vincenzo expects Toni to get arrested, but Toni escapes the ambush. He destroys the car and he removes the evidence. Toni returns to Vincenzo, knowing the mission is a setup. But he does not kill him yet. Instead, Toni ends their working relationship. Vincenzo loses control of him, so Toni starts working directly with JD. JD first sends Toni to collect money from workers around the red light district. The job gives Toni a clear view of JD's network. JD controls the club, he controls information, and he knows whenever an important Sindaco enters Portland. That information becomes useful almost immediately. Police raid Polly's review bar while Salvatore is inside. Salvatore is trapped. If the police arrest him, the entire Leone family loses its main quest giver. So Toni enters the club, he reaches Salvatore and he drives through the blockade before the police can close it. Salvatore escapes, and he notices exactly who saves him. Not Vincenzo, not one of the new soldiers. Toni, the same man who spends 4 years hiding because Salvatore orders him to. Toni's loyalty never disappears, so Salvatore starts trusting him again. But the Sindacos respond by escalating the faction war. They attack a Leone casino in St. Mark's. Gunmen surround the building, then an explosives truck charges toward the entrance. If the truck reaches the casino, the entire property gets deleted. So Toni holds the position, he kills the attackers, and he destroys the truck before it reaches the building. The casino survives, but defending Leone property is no longer enough, so Toni gives the Sindaccos a consequence. He places a bomb inside one of their vehicles. He drives it into the doll's house. Then he escapes before the building explodes. The Sindaccos attack one Leone business, so Toni erases one of theirs. The balance in Portland begins shifting, but Toni still cannot impress the NPC whose approval matters most to him: his mother. We meet Ma Cipriani. Ma is angry because Toni returns to Liberty City without visiting her immediately. When he finally arrives, she does not welcome him. She explains that almost every other man in Portland is tougher, braver, and more successful than her son. Her first example is a deli owner named Giovanni Casa. Casa acts polite whenever Ma is nearby, but Toni suspects the character model is hiding something, so he follows Casa. Toni catches him wearing a strange outfit and chasing prostitutes. He photographs the evidence, then he shows the pictures to Ma, thinking this finally ends the comparison. But Ma barely reacts. She immediately starts praising the triads instead, so Toni attacks a triad gang. He kills one of their leaders, but Ma still refuses to respect him. She moves to a new comparison, a street racer named Dan Sucho. Ma claims Sucho is faster and tougher than Toni, so Toni enters Sucho's race. He wins. Then he kills Sucho after crossing the finish line. But even this does not satisfy Ma. Meanwhile, Casa stops paying protection money after Toni humiliates him, so Toni decides to remove him permanently. He lures Casa to a sawmill. He kills him. Then he cuts up the body and delivers the remains back to Casa's own deli. Toni expects Ma to finally recognize his effort, but she disowns him instead. Then she places a contract on his life. So random hitmen begin spawning around Liberty City. Toni kills the first wave, but the contract stays active. His own mother now functions like a permanent hostile side quest. While Toni handles that problem, a ferry strike shuts down the docks. We meet the union leader, Jane Hopper. Hopper blocks the port, knowing businesses across Liberty City depend on it. Salvatore has an important shipment approaching the city, but the cargo cannot enter while the docks remain closed, so Toni tries the peaceful dialogue option. He offers Hopper money, but she refuses. Her workers surround Toni, so Toni fights his way out. The negotiation fails, but Salvatore still needs the docks reopened, so Toni begins breaking Hopper's control over the union. He distracts the workers, he intimidates important officials, and he removes the people keeping the strike organized. But before Toni finishes the objective, Salvatore's girlfriend contacts him. We meet Maria Lattori. Maria is bored. She is reckless, and she has a passive ability that turns every small decision into a police chase. Maria asks Toni to drive her around Portland, but she begins stealing from several stores. The police gain aggro, so Toni drives her away before they get arrested. Maria now sees Toni as someone who can clean up her bad decisions, so she contacts him again. This time, she buys drugs from the Sindaccos, but the deal is a trap. They kidnap her and attempt to escape, so Toni follows the vehicle. He kills the kidnappers and he brings Maria back. Maria decides this rescue means Toni has feelings for her, but Toni knows she is Salvatore's girlfriend, so he keeps the relationship professional. Maria ignores this completely. She later offers herself as the reward in a motorcycle race. Toni enters knowing Salvatore will freak out if she leaves with a random biker. Toni wins the race, but Maria runs away with a biker named Wayne anyway. Wayne later attacks Maria after hearing she claims to love Toni, so Toni tracks him down. He fights through Wayne's gang, and he kills him. Maria survives, but Wayne's remaining bikers now want revenge. Then Maria overdoses. Toni finds her barely conscious. She demands a drug called Zap, so Toni drives across Portland looking for it. But Maria keeps changing the destination. The biker gang keeps attacking, and her directions become more glitched every minute, so Toni gives up on the item hunt. He takes Maria back to Salvatore's mansion. Maria survives the overdose, but she accuses Toni of trying to get close to her and complains that he refuses to give her money. Toni now returns to the ferry strike. He disguises himself as Jane Hopper's driver. Hopper enters the car thinking she is getting a normal ride, but Toni drives around Portland like her HP bar depends on it. By the end of the journey, Hopper is ready to cooperate. So the strike ends, the docks reopen, and Salvatore's shipment finally reaches Liberty City. Toni joins the Leone crew at the exchange, but the Colombian cartel ambushes them. Cartel gunmen surround the shipment. Losing it cost the Leones money, drugs, and faction credibility. So Toni fights through the ambush. He secures the cargo, and he gets it away intact. The shipment survives, but the attack shows rival factions that Salvatore can be reached. The Sindacos take that lesson further. JD learns they kidnap Salvatore. They lock him inside the trunk of a car. Then they drive toward a junkyard, planning to place the entire vehicle inside a crusher. If the crusher closes, the Leone family loses its boss. So Toni intercepts the kidnappers, he kills them. He reaches the junkyard, and he stops the machine before Salvatore gets clapped by industrial equipment. Salvatore survives again because Toni arrives when everyone else fails. So Salvatore stops playing defense. He decides to capture Polly's review bar permanently. Salvatore attacks from street level. Toni covers him from the rooftops. Together, they kill the Sindaco defenders. They capture the club, and they take one of the Sindaco's strongest Portland assets. The Leones now control the area, but JD uncovers a larger threat. We meet a Sicilian mobster named Massimo Torini. Torini claims he comes to Liberty City to create peace between the mafia families. Salvatore does not believe him, so Toni follows Torini's helicopter. Torini meets with the Diablos. He promises them Leone territory if they attack Salvatore. Then he meets the Triads and makes the same offer. We learn the Sicilians are not trying to stop the war. They are recruiting extra factions into it. Torini wants every available gang to attack the Leones at the same time. JD believes uncovering this conspiracy finally earns him membership in the Leone family. So Mickey Hamfists and Toni collect him. JD believes he is traveling to his initiation. He is nervous, but he also thinks his grind is complete. Then Mickey shoots him in the back. Salvatore is willing to use a traitor, but he is not willing to trust one. JD betrays the Sindacos, so Salvatore assumes he can eventually betray the Leones. Toni helps Mickey dispose of JD's body. They destroy the car, and they erase the informant who gives them the information needed to conquer Portland. JD completes the quest line, but his reward is death. Vincenzo contacts Toni soon afterward. He claims he wants to end their rivalry. He invites Toni aboard a ship. Toni knows the meeting is probably a trap, but he goes anyway. The moment Toni enters, Vincenzo's men rush him with chainsaws. So Toni fights through them. He reaches Vincenzo, and Vincenzo finally explains why he hates him.
You son of a bitch! Why can't you just die already? You should have never come back, Toni.
Vincenzo spends years climbing towards Salvatore, but Toni returns and starts regaining Salvatore's trust almost immediately. Vincenzo believes Toni receives free reputation from an old save file, but Toni keeps completing every mission placed in front of him, so the two men enter their boss fight. Vincenzo attacks, but Toni kills him. The rival blocking Toni's comeback is finally gone, but Torini's plan is already active. Sicilian-backed Diablos attack Leone territory in Hepburn Heights, so Toni joins the Leone soldiers and drives them back. Then the Triads raid a Leone warehouse. They steal the family's money, so Toni enters Chinatown. He kills the thieves and he recovers the cash. Both attacks fail, but Salvatore realizes Torini can keep spawning new enemies. The police are closing in, the Syndicates are still attacking, and street gangs are hitting Portland from opposite directions. So Salvatore decides Portland is no longer safe. Toni collects him. They race towards Staunton Island, but the Callahan Bridge is still unfinished. The safe routes are gone, and turning around leaves them exposed, so Toni accelerates toward the missing section. He launches the car across the gap, and he somehow lands on the other side. Salvatore escapes Portland, and Toni's position in the family changes completely. He is no longer a forgotten soldier completing tutorial missions. He is now the person Salvatore calls when the main quest is about to fail. Their next obstacle is Liberty City's mayor. We meet Mayor Roger C. Hall. Hall protects Leone enemies. He uses City Hall against Salvatore, and he blocks the family from expanding safely. So Salvatore orders Toni to remove him. Toni finds Hall jogging through Belleville Park. He kills him, and the murder forces Liberty City to hold a new election. Salvatore now has an opportunity to install a friendly NPC inside City Hall. But before the campaign begins, Mickey Hamfists collects Toni. Toni remembers JD's fake initiation, so he assumes Salvatore plans to execute him too. Mickey drives him to a quiet location, but instead of killing him, the Leone family formally makes Toni a made man. After 4 years in hiding, Toni finally receives the mafia status he expects at the beginning. The news reaches Ma Cipriani. Ma immediately changes teams. She claims she always believes in Toni. She cancels the contract, and she welcomes him back like she does not personally hire the assassins. Toni completes his original objective, but Salvatore already has a bigger mission. He wants Donald Love to become mayor. We meet Donald Love. Donald is a businessman, he is a political opportunist, and his private hobbies become more disturbing with every cutscene. Before the campaign begins, Donald asks Toni to steal a hearse carrying a corpse. Donald needs the body for a private morgue party, so Toni steals the hearse. He delivers the corpse, and he avoids asking follow-up questions. So the election becomes another mafia faction war, but this version uses campaign posters. Toni drives Donald's campaign vehicles around the city. He attacks O'Donovan's campaign workers, and he protects Donald when Forelli gunmen ambush his limousine. The Forellis then prepare counterfeit ballots and voting machines, so Toni destroys the operation. He intercepts vans carrying legitimate ballots, he replaces votes, and he keeps Donald's campaign competitive. Around the same time, Toni visits a church. We meet a priest called Father Ned, but Ned behaves more like a criminal quest giver than a priest. He sends Toni to steal a doping report before federal agents recover it. So Toni takes the report. Ned then sends him to recover stolen diamonds, so Toni kills the thieves and returns with the stones. Then Ned asks Toni to steal a fire engine and create as much chaos as possible. So Toni drives through Staunton Island, smashing vehicles and generating news footage. Finally, Ned asks Toni to kill 3 celebrities who refuse to give him interviews. So Toni eliminates Faith W, he eliminates DBP, and he eliminates Black Lightman. Father Ned keeps assigning crimes, but Toni has more urgent problems. A former mayoral assistant knows something about Torini, so Salvatore captures him and interrogates him aboard a boat. Government agents attack the operation, but Toni defends Salvatore. Under pressure, the assistant delivers a major lore drop. We learn the Sicilians manipulate all 3 mafia families. They want the Leones, Forellis, and Sindacos to keep fighting. Every dead soldier weakens Liberty City. Every destroyed business makes the city easier to control. So once the local families finish draining each other's HP bars, Sicily chooses which organizations survive. Salvatore cannot stop the war, so he decides to control the damage. If the families insist on fighting, his enemies take the worst losses. This strategy brings Toni to a corrupt police officer named Leon McCaffrey. Leon does not care about justice. He works for whichever family pays him. So Toni uses Leon's information to attack the Forellis and Sindacos. He removes Sindaco soldiers. He helps the Yardis capture Forelli territory. He destroys weapons before they reach Fort Staunton, and he stops the Forellis from reclaiming their streets. Both rival families begin losing resources, so Polly Sindaco attempts to form a temporary alliance with the Forellis. A united faction can overwhelm the Leones, so Toni has to cancel the co-op session. The strategy works, but the constant violence attracts federal attention. Salvatore gets arrested. The moment the boss enters prison, Leon McCaffrey disappears. Supporting Salvatore is profitable while the Leones look powerful. Donald Love's campaign also collapses. Donald spends almost his entire fortune chasing City Hall, but he receives no office, no political influence, and approximately $20 million in debt. Donald blames Toni. He refuses to pay him, then he disappears. For the first time since Toni returns, the Leone faction begins collapsing. Their candidate loses, their enemies control City Hall. Toni visits Salvatore in prison while disguised as a lawyer. Salvatore does not know which rival helps arrange his arrest, so he decides both families deserve punishment. Toni attacks Forelli positions, he attacks Sindaco operations, and he prevents either faction from gaining power while Salvatore remains locked up. The pressure breaks Polly Sindaco. Polly attempts to escape Liberty City by boat, so Toni follows him to Cochrane Dam. He destroys the boat, and he kills Polly before he can leave. Without Polly, the Sindaco family loses its leader. One of Liberty City's 3 mafia factions is effectively finished. Toni eventually finds Donald love again. Donald now lives inside a filthy apartment. He goes from mansions and motorcades to sitting alone in the dark with the trash NPCs. Donald is broke, but he is not finished. His former mentor, Avery Carrington, is traveling to Liberty City. Avery possesses redevelopment plans for Fort Staunton. Those plans can rebuild Donald's fortune. Avery teaches Donald almost everything he knows about property, so Donald responds by ordering Toni to murder him. Avery arrives under Colombian cartel protection. Toni attacks the convoy. He kills Avery and he steals the redevelopment plans. But a photographer captures the murder. The photographer is Liberty Tree reporter Ned Burner, and Toni finally understands the Father Ned plot twist. There is no priest. Ned uses Toni to manufacture crimes. He arranges the stolen report, he arranges the diamonds, he orders the fire engine rampage, and he orders the celebrity murders. Then he publishes stories about the chaos afterward. Now Ned has photographic evidence connecting Toni to Avery's murder. If the pictures reach the newspaper, Toni and Donald are finished. So Toni chases Ned, he takes the photographs, and he kills the reporter before the story gets published. Donald then requests both bodies, so Toni delivers Avery and Ned for another morgue party. The game never explains what Donald does at these parties. That lore can stay locked. With Avery's plans secured, Donald has a path back to wealth, but Fort Staunton still stands on the land he wants. Donald cannot buy the district, so he decides to remove it. Toni contacts an explosives expert named 8-Ball. He pays 8-Ball to build a bomb powerful enough to destroy the area. But the explosives need time. Meanwhile, the Yakuza obtain a tank. If they deploy it, Leone control of Staunton gets clapped instantly. So Toni infiltrates the Yakuza compound. He steals the tank and he destroys it before the Yakuza can use it. This operation brings Toni to a woman named Toshiko Kasen. Toshiko is married to Yakuza leader Kazuki Kasen. Kazuki ignores her, he humiliates her, and he treats her like another item inside his inventory. Toshiko wants to escape, but she also wants to destroy everything that gives Kazuki pride. So she hires Toni to dismantle the Yakuza from inside its own hierarchy. Toni steals a major weapons shipment. He gives the weapons to Phil Cassidy. He raids Yakuza security vehicles, and he throws their money across the streets. The attacks damage the organization, but Toshiko wants to humiliate Kazuki personally, so she asks Toni to escort her to the opera. She wants the city to see her beside another man. More importantly, she wants Kazuki to hear about it. He does. Kazuki realizes his wife works with the same man in destroying his faction assets. So he prepares to kill both of them, but Toni reaches him first. Toni enters Kazuki's casino. He fights through the Yakuza. He reaches the roof, and he begins the faction boss fight. Kazuki attacks with his sword, but Toni kills him. Toni returns to Toshiko with Kazuki's weapon. Her husband is dead, his pride is destroyed, and his organization is heavily weakened. Toshiko finally has freedom, but revenge is her only main quest. Now that the quest is complete, she has no objective left. So Toshiko walks to the window, she jumps, and she dies. Toni leaves another alliance where every important NPC except him ends up dead. 8-Ball finally completes the explosives, so Toni loads the bombs into a van. He enters the unfinished tunnels beneath Fort Staunton. Forelli soldiers move to intercept him, knowing the explosion destroys the territory they control. But Toni fights through them. He plants the charges and he escapes. The bombs detonate. Fort Staunton collapses. An entire city district becomes rubble. And Donald Love gains one of Liberty City's largest redevelopment opportunities. Investors return. Donald's fortune begins rebuilding. But the Colombian cartel still wants revenge for Avery's murder. They attack Donald's new mansion, so Toni holds them back. He gets Donald to the airport and he helps him escape aboard Avery's plane. Avery and Ned's bodies are still inside, so Donald leaves Liberty City with the development plans, a returning fortune, and 2 corpses. Toni remains behind. Salvatore now needs to reach the courthouse, but the Sicilians cannot allow him to survive the journey, so they prepare an ambush. Toni steals a police car, he joins the prison convoy, and he drives beside the armored vehicle carrying Salvatore. Sicilian gunmen attack almost immediately. They destroy escort vehicles, they block the streets, and they attack from several directions, trying to isolate Salvatore's truck. But Toni clears each roadblock, he destroys the Sicilian vehicles, and he keeps the convoy moving. The armored truck reaches the courthouse. Salvatore survives, and he receives bail. Salvatore returns to his mansion. Polly is dead. The Sindacos are collapsing. The Forellis lose territory, weapons, and political influence, so Salvatore believes the faction war is almost finished. Then the Sicilians request peace. Salvatore does not trust the offer. He also knows Mayor O'Donovan can keep the criminal case against him active. So Salvatore decides to remind the mayor who controls Liberty City. But Torini moves first. Sicilian soldiers attack City Hall. They kidnap O'Donovan, and they escape before Salvatore can secure the building. Toni kills the remaining attackers, but Torini leaves with the mayor. So Salvatore pursues him to the waterfront. Salvatore takes control of a speedboat. Toni protects the vessel while Sicilian boats attack from behind. Together they fight across the water. They follow Torini to the lighthouse, and they corner the man responsible for the entire war. Torini finally explains the full plot. The Sicilians do not want to rule Liberty City directly. The conflict begins because Salvatore stops sending tribute to the old country, so Sicily decides to punish him.
Salvatore, Sicily never wanted questo schifo di città, but when tribute dried up, what could we do?
Torini recruits the Diablos and Triads to attack Leone territory. He manipulates the Forellis and Sindacos into destroying each other. Every major crisis belongs to the same strategy. Weaken Salvatore, destroy the local families, then allow Sicily to control whatever remains. But Salvatore rejects the arrangement. The old country no longer controls Liberty City. The Leones do. O'Donovan breaks free. Torini runs toward a helicopter, so Toni attacks the aircraft before it can take off. The helicopter explodes. Massimo Torini dies, and the Sicilian operation dies with him. Salvatore brings Mayor O'Donovan back to the mansion. Then he explains the cost of being rescued. From this point forward, O'Donovan works for the Leone family. The mayor agrees. So City Hall now belongs to the same mafia faction. It spends the entire game fighting. Toni and Salvatore later meet Salvatore's uncle at Ma Cipriani's restaurant. Uncle Leone explains that Sicily now accepts Salvatore's position. The old country offers peace. Salvatore accepts, but he makes it clear that he never trusts his uncle again. The Sicilians leave Liberty City. The Sindacos lose almost all their power. The Forellis lose territory and political influence. The Yakuza lose Kazuki, their tank, and much of their military strength. Miles O'Donovan remains mayor, but he now answers to Salvatore, so the Leone family becomes the strongest criminal faction in Liberty City. Salvatore tells Toni they achieved the victory together. Toni saves his life several times, he protects the family, and he carries the Leones through every phase of the war. Salvatore finally gives Toni the money he promises, but he cuts the payment down to $500,000. Then he acts offended when Toni questions him. Toni returns to Liberty City with no position. Vincenzo treats him like a tutorial NPC. His mother hires assassins to kill him. The Sindacos invade Leone territory, the Forellis control City Hall, and the Sicilians turn the entire city against Salvatore. But Toni rebuilds his reputation. He takes back Leone territory. He becomes a made man. He defeats every major rival, and he protects Salvatore through kidnappings, gang wars, prison, and a Sicilian conspiracy. Toni no longer needs anyone to remember who he used to be. He becomes Salvatore Leone's most trusted man. The forgotten soldier returns with nothing, but he finishes the game as the foundation of Liberty City's strongest mafia family. And that is where this video ends. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.